Hi, my name is Corinne Penningill, and I want to talk about my piece, Depression, and the process of relief printmaking. I chose to print a woman who is drowning, which signifies depression, to portray the idea of emptiness and helplessness, and the fact that during depression it feels like you can't take a breath of fresh air, and it affects many students and youth today. It needs to be discussed because sometimes it's such a taboo idea that people just don't understand the feeling and the meaning of depression when you're inside it. Although the woman is drowning, she is trying to save her heart, keeping it above water, almost allowing it to go on without her. And I wanted to show how people allow their emotions to lead them, and even though if they're emotionally drained, feel anxious, they'll also be kind to others and really allow their heart to lead them in the correct place. Her heart is separated from her body because what she wants and what she needs are going to be two different things, and she is separated from necessity when she's desperately trying to save her emotions and her desires. Now, the black hole in her chest represents the emptiness from her heart leaving her body and in how it affects her soul. I also wanted to make sure that the colors clearly represented the meaning of the print, so I used a dark blue surrounding her body to show the darkness and the sadness that she's in during depression. And I also used a light blue that's reflected on her skin to show that it does have an effect on her body. And I also had the sun in a bright, beautiful color of yellow, so that it is almost a saving grace and it is represented in happiness. The first step in relief printmaking is figuring out what you want to print, what the meaning is, and how many colors you want to use, whether it be one color or 5, or how many you want to do. So sketching it out many times is very helpful, and this is the first draft that I used. After the final draft was completed, I took tracing paper and traced over the drawing in soft lead pencil. I found it was helpful to say which side I drew on it so I wouldn't get mixed up, so I said graphite side. The parts where I draw is where I plan to cut out, so I also had to prepare which colors would go where and in what order. It's easier to work from light colors to dark because light colors won't show up after dark due to transparency, and I wanted to give depth to my prints, so I chose 5 colors. First was yellow for the sun, clouds, fish, and the highlights over the body. The second was a pinkish tan for the base skin color. Third was a light blue to show the reflection in the skin and some of the waves. Fourth was a dark blue for the deep waters, and finally red for the heart and the hair. Carving out each layer needs to be done with immense care since it is impossible to erase or go back. So using a bench hook helps keep the linoleum piece in place, and I used carving tools to shape and cut the block, leaving behind what is going to be printed. Each carving tool can be used for different size or depth of marks. Place the linoleum block onto a flat surface with newspaper underneath so that the paint does not go everywhere. I use a piece of glass to place a dab of special printmaking ink, and then rolling the brayer on the ink until it has a very even and velvety look, and you can really hear the sound of it when it's ready. Then I roll the brayer onto the carving until there's an even and thin layer of paint on it. Then I prepare the paper that I would be using to copy my print onto, and I used about 25 different sheets. I used a wood registration block that would assure that each copy would be placed back onto the same place each time, and after putting some holes into each of them and fitting them into the registration, I was ready to print. I picked up my sheet of paper and put it in its place and smoothed it out. With a baren, I pressed down and evenly smoothed out the paper. Right now I'm going to be using just any flat surface that I can find, and it can be really anything. Just remember to put on some pressure. One of the difficulties with printmaking is that as I added more ink to the sheet, the old paint would get stuck to the linoleum block, and when I lifted it up, it would come off in splotches. And generally, paint has a tendency of getting everywhere, so it's also important to keep my hands clean as I handle the sheets. Working with negative space can be difficult if I can't wrap my mind around it, but I have to think about what my final print will look like, and that is one of the reasons why relief printmaking is a challenging process, but also it's very rewarding, and you can have many prints that you can give to your friends or sell.